special city workshop of June 1st. Second item on the agenda is discussion of possible action on the Guthrie garbage service rates supply revenue. Leroy?
To start with a recap, of course, on May 4th, we started this series, and what we're trying to do is a series of workshops to provide information leading up to our annual City Council planning retreat on August 13th. Hopefully, we won't have to spend as much time talking about background information and where we've been, and we can concentrate more time in talking about where we want to go in the future. With that, on May 4th, we made a presentation where we talked about our water distribution system, main and valve replacement, and we talked about the funding that we requested through the Congressional Community Project funding for the next federal budget, which commonly is referred to as earmarking. We submitted 5 projects, 55 miles of water line distribution, main and valve replacement, $31.5 billion, full reconstruction, full depth reconstruction of Sooner Road and 19th Street, youth baseball complex relocated out of the floodplain in Cottonwood Flats, $4.8 million, a new aquatic center at Highland Park, $5 million, and a second fire EMS station with a fire training facility, 3.9. I would mention here for everybody's benefit, we're going over all these projects for benefit leading up to the planning retreat, and staff is spending a lot of time working with congressional delegations, regional staff. We're working with EDA. If individual councilmen are going to call any of these entities, I would recommend they visit with city staff. Can't tell you all what to do, but I think if we think in one team, one voice, if you're going to make a call to a senator's office or to the Economic Development Administration, it would be nice if you would think, well, maybe I ought to coordinate with city staff so we're sending one voice. If you keep that in consideration, I would appreciate it. Of course, Tuesday, May 11th, we had our City Council orientation. And then on the 18th, we talked about potential Economic Development Administration grant applications. EDA is getting $3 billion under the American Rescue funding. We talked about our first priority being the shovel-ready industrial park we refer to it as 80 acres. It's actually 77 acres. A state certified film sound stage is our number 2 priority, with enhancement, and this would be an enhancement to the first Capitol Film Crew Institute that will be at Meridian Tech Guthrie, and they got collaboratively through the city, Meridian, and a chamber. There was a $100,000 grant to plan that and get it started. Airport Business Park is our 3rd priority. We will focus on the first 2, but we would like to move forward, as we talked about, to have plans in hand so that if we get an opportunity and they say, hey, we're looking for a project, we can say, hey, we've got one. And then the 4th priority would be business expansion revolving loan fund. Those priorities may change based on applications when we visit with the Economic Development Administration. Their $3 billion may be divided up into different pots and different priorities. It won't just be one pot of $3 billion. So depending, shovel-ready industrial park, under the American Rescue Plan, you may not have to have an industry in hand that says you build it, I'll commit to come there. So we would gear it towards that. Their regular program requires you to have an industry committed to move there. So all of their different pots of money have different requirements, so things may be reshuffled depending on how they divide the money up and what priorities they put, but we will keep you in the loop. Then tonight, there we go. We're going to talk about the garbage service rate schedule versus our wastewater connection fees. We're going to talk about the convenience center solid waste disposal rate schedule versus the waste connection collection and disposal fees. And then we're going to talk about the youth sports facilities, hotel tax, and other funding opportunities. There won't be any decisions made tonight. These, again, what we're trying to do is put out all the different options for discussion leading up to the August 13th City Council Planning Retreat. At our next meeting on the 15th, we plan to have another workshop, and we're going to do a briefing on our 2021 City Bridge Safety Inspection Report and our 11 bridges, if I remember the correct number. Talk about our city water towers and booster stations, our raw water sources, Guthrie Lake, Liberty Lake, and the Cottonwood Creek Pump Station. On July 6th, another special workshop at 6. We're going to talk about the new state statute that's for public safety protection districts, where you can levy up to 5 mills on property within the city limits for police, fire, and EMS. So that people don't get too excited, that would require a vote of the people with a 60% yes vote, a supermajority to pass it. But it would only be on property inside the city limits. It would not include agriculture or industrial property. Then we're going to talk about future traffic control for high growth corridors and accident prone intersections. We've been visiting with ODOT, and we're going to do a report on that. On July 20th, will be a workshop talking about wastewater collection system, and then priority equipment needs by department. Then August 3rd will be another special workshop where we do our workshop on our FY22 budget. So that's kind of the way we've laid it out. We can always change if you have different priorities. Just a sidebar editorial comment. We've seen a lot of issues or talked about a lot where we have deferred maintenance, and just want to point out the complications that are created by deferred maintenance. Number 10, deferred maintenance compounds at 7% a year. It's kind of like you borrow money from the bank and you don't pay the principal, you don't even pay the interest. Well, that debt just keeps growing. And that's kind of the way it works with deferred maintenance. And of course, if it's above ground, you can see it. But a lot of our deferred maintenance on water lines and wastewater collection system is underground, so it's not readily known. I won't read all those to you. Another sidebar, and again, this is editorial opinion, but we have limited resources, and I don't think we can put all of our money into day-to-day operations. We can't put it all into deferred maintenance. I think we have to have a balance, and I think these are the 6 buckets that you would look at when trying to decide how to use our limited resources to move the whole community forward. Of course, the first is our basic or core city services, water, sewer, garbage, streets, police, fire, planning. Again, stay in our lane, do what we do best when we can't be everything for everybody. Second, stabilization reserves and fund balances. I think in the last 4 to 5 years, we've done a good job at that, but we need to make sure we set aside to protect against economic downturns. so that we can shave the peaks and fill the valleys, especially with sales tax, the way it fluctuates. Number 3, deferred maintenance or scheduled maintenance to catch up with some of the repairs that we've deferred over the years. Number 4, placemaking or community development, orderly growth in tourism, investments that will create quality place where people want to visit, live, work, play, and learn in. Things like quality education, supporting that, investing in parks, walkability, arts, special events. Number 5, economic development, quality job creation, either through expansion of existing business or recruitment of new ones to diversify our economic base and increase our community wealth. And the last one, grant opportunities, setting aside matching funds for future opportunities. If we got a project we want to do and we can get 60 or 80% of it paid by outside dollars, that's a pretty good investment. So I would suggest those are the 6 areas or 6 buckets that we would want to try to spread our limited resources to move everything forward rather than concentrate on just one item. Oops, I went backwards. President Biden, we talked earlier about trying to get earmarked funds for certain projects. We will get a second bite of the apple under the American Jobs Plan. Of course, the first we got through the COVID Act, we got about a little over 800,000, almost 900,000. Under the American Rescue Plan, there has been about 1.9 million that has been set aside for our community based on population and prior budgets. It's estimated that's what we will get. We anticipate we will get half of that this budget year and half of it next year. And it is more restrictive on what you can use it for. One of the items is water utility improvements. So we are looking at suggesting using a lot of that towards replacement of our water mains and valves. Then the president has the American Jobs Plan and American Family Plan. Under the American Jobs Plan, 115 billion is what he proposed for bridges, highways, and roads, 20 million for road safety, 80 million for Amtrak, 111 billion for safe drinking water, upgrade wastewater and stormwater systems, 100 billion in workforce development, 31 billion to create the national network of small business incubator and some other projects. We all know that those numbers will be changed as it goes through the congressional process. I know I saw where the Senate had another proposal, and so until it actually gets through Congress and signed by the president, we won't know the exact numbers. But clearly there's going to be some significant numbers on earmarking. Congress has done theirs. The Senate side has not done their earmarking yet. So we're still waiting to see if we get any of our projects earmarked on the Senate side. If we don't, then the projects that we're looking at, again, it's almost a full-time job keeping track of where they're putting all the money. It'll go to different federal agencies. Some of it will come to state, and be spread out to state agencies. So we'll have to be watching the notice of funding availability so that we don't miss any deadlines to apply for the various grants. And so it's becoming quite cumbersome doing that, but it will be worth it to our community. Now we'll talk about the Guthrie rates for garbage service and compared to what we pay to Waste Connection. I'd point out that this is oversimplified. It's a little more complex than this, but I think this gives us a general picture. Would point out The last time we raised our sanitation rates was in 2006, and at that time it was a 12% increase. So it's been over 15 years since we did a rate increase on our waste connection fees or garbage fees. Our revenue, if you look at 2011, $1 million, almost 1.2. Our fees to Waste Connection, 734,000. So our net revenue was 424, or 37% was the margin when you divide that by the gross revenue. Over time, with us leaving our rates the same, $13.24 a month, as the expense that we pay Waste Connection goes up, our margin goes down. So if you just, for discussion purposes, if you had revenue at a steady 37% margin and we'd increased our rate at the same percentage that Waste Connection raised their charge to us, we would have made an additional $152,000 in FY20. And over that time, depending on the perspective and how you want to say it, our lost revenue opportunity was almost $1 million. And so if you look at our rates right now, they've been $13.24 since 2006, and West Connection rates have been going up, and that's the percentage. Some years they go 0. Over the last 10 years, they went up 10.6%. If we did the same, then our rates would go up in 2020 to $14.65, or over that time, a 10.65% increase. If you compare that to other communities, this is our current rate, $13.24 for one time a week pickup. If you're inside the city limits, Crescent is at $13.98. If we did do the 10.6% increase, we would be at $14.65. And if you look at these communities, we would still be on the low side of what we charge for garbage collection inside the city of Guthrie. You can see even Stillwater's $20 for a weekly pickup. So even with an increase, we're still going to be very competitive. Options for further study and recommendations. City Council has a standing finance committee. There's 3 council members on that. They're appointed through May of 2023. Councilman Long, Bothroyd, and Williams. The other option would be to send this to the Citizen Rate and Fee Advisory Committee. That committee was created by resolution back in 2010, and its purpose is to meet as needed to discuss rate, fee, and tax adjustments. So this question could be presented to either our Finance Committee or the Citizen Rate and Fee Advisory Committee. It's been a couple years at least since that committee's appointments have been updated. So if we're going to present it to them, we'll need to go through each council member, proposes somebody to serve on the rate committee, and then they have to be approved by a majority of city council. We would need to update those appointments if we were going to refer this to them. Talk about one more thing and then I'll stop for discussion. At our convenience center, which I call transfer station, we have not increased our rate since 2005. So again, 16 years. It's $10 a cubic yard. Inside, if you have a city water bill, and then it was added $15 for roofing materials back in 2011. Again, this is the revenue stream. This is the expenditures, and I'd point out these expenditures are what we pay Waste Connections. It doesn't include our manpower and our equipment costs. So if you look at 2020, our gross revenue was 110. Our what we paid Waste Connections is 93,000. So we generated $17,000 to pay for the manpower that we have out there and the equipment at the service center.
And that budget, just that budget alone is 164,000, the convenience center.
Okay. Trying to look at comparing it to other cities, and that got complicated. We'll have to spend some more time with that because there were some cities that did not charge anything to take your solid waste out to the convenience center. But then there's others that said, well, no charge for these items, and then for these items you got to pay. And so trying to put that chart together to show you become quite complicated. So we're going to have to do some more study to lay it out in a way that makes sense to compare what other communities charge at their service center. But clearly, if you look at what we charge versus what we pay Waste Connections, and then you also have to pay for equipment and labor, that facility's not paying its own way. With that, I thought I would stop for discussion and then transition into youth sports facilities for the next part of the presentation.
So we've enacted the rate and fee committee, which would just be reappointing, right?
Correct.
Because they haven't met in, I don't know how many years.
It's been a while. They've not met since I've been here.
Yeah. They could take on both those issues, really.
Correct. And it would be a council decision to which committee they sent that to study and come back with a recommendation. Any other questions or comments?
Well, on the convenience center, so if we're adding 164,000 in as an expenditure in here, then obviously we are significantly underfunding that.
We're subsidizing that operation.
Yeah.
Correct.
So the
And
gross revenue-
typically, utilities, you try to operate very similar to a business enterprise. That's why they're enterprise funds, and they should pay their own way. You shouldn't have to subsidize them from other funding sources. They should pay their own way.
So the current gross revenue for the convenience center is just what people are charged out there. That's not,
Correct.
communities like Stillwater that was significantly higher, are they one that don't charge or that does not charge for their convenience center?
We will have to do some more study on that. To be honest with you, when I try to look at what other communities did on the service center, it confused me, and I thought if I tried to put a chart together for tonight without doing more study, it would just lead to more confusing. So on that one, we'll try to give you a better chart, but we just need to do some more research on it.
So the expenditure is 164,000?
In addition to what we pay,
How,
That's
in
salary
addition to
equivalent.
the 93?
Yeah,
Correct.
that's not in there.
So it's 200, it's $250,000 or more.
correct,
How is that? I guess we'll get into that.
correct.
Because the salaries can't be that high.
No, it would include fuel, salaries, equipment, those kind of things. And without actually looking at the budget, I don't have it memorized. But the main point is, that doesn't include all the costs. You do have at least salaries, fuel, equipment, maintenance, those kind of things in there. And on a given year, that might be more than others. If you bought a
This
piece
year
of
might be more
equipment-
because of the storm
Yeah,
damage.
yeah, or if you bought a piece of equipment that year.
Right.
So we'd have to dig into that a little deeper, but clearly the cost is more than just what we pay.
Yeah.
Waste Connections. And again, we're just bringing these things to the city council as background information leading up to our planning retreat so that you all have information to make some decisions on what your priorities are, where do you want us to spend our time. Now, change gears a little bit and talk about the youth softball, baseball complex. Again, we did a master plan. The goal is to create, for future operation and maintenance, create an all-sports authority similar to the Edmond All-Sports Authority. In the past, we've had individual agreements with the different baseball, softball, soccer groups. This would put it all under one umbrella. The entry fees, concession stand sales are to pay for operations and routine field maintenance. Major improvements and significant maintenance would, of course, fall back on the city. But mowing, routine maintenance would be under the sports authority is the concept. Phase one, again, we talked about refurbishing the 3 existing fields, construct 3 new ones, new concession stand, asphalt parking lots, and entry road. The budget for that was $5.7 million. And then if you look at, and over $1 million of it was site prep, dirt work. On phase 2, the Little League baseball relocation from Cottonwood Flats, it was looking at construction of 6 new fields, 2 each fields for Little League, 10 and under, T-ball, 8 and under, new concession stand, restroom building, parking lots, entry road, just under $5 million. So total project, if you look at it, was for phase 1 and 2, softball and baseball was $10.5 million. We wanted to at least get this kick-started, and so we scaled down phase 1, the softball field complex, to a $2 million project so that we thought that would be competitive with $1 million land and water conservation grant application and $1 million of local matching funds coming from the CIP sales tax that was passed several years ago. And if I remember correctly, the state got roughly $6 million, $5 to $6 million. We got $1 million of that. So we did quite well on the percentage of state funds they got for land and water conservation. So that scaled down project did not make any improvements to the 3 existing fields, but we would construct 3 new softball fields, install lighting on one of the fields, do a 1,300 square foot concession restroom building, quick connects for irrigation at each field. We would have rock parking lots with curb and gutter, extend water line, and take care of sanitary sewer. So it is a scaled back project, but it does get a start. I would point out that we were notified on March 8th, we got it. But it has to go through a section 106 historic preservation review. After they approve the grant, it's got to go to the Historic Preservation Office. It's got to go through the Archaeological Survey. It's got to go to the National Park Service. They got to come out and inspect the site. Then you get the project grant agreement and you get started. I looked back because I thought, got it. We should be getting started on that project. It was an 8-month process on mineral wells from the time they notified it till when we got the grant agreement.
So we're talking first of the year probably with winter.
Well, we have reached out to the grant administrator, and we may get in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
No,
So
that'd be
maybe a
nice.
little quicker. But I thought, you know, patience is probably not one of my best virtues, and I wonder why don't we have it while we start? But if you look back on the mineral wells grant, it took a while as well. So next steps, what we would propose at staff is to take the 3 existing fields and do a budget of each existing field, new fencing, field lighting, backstop, dugouts, newly graded outfields and infields with irrigation system, and then bleachers, and do a budget for each field individually, and then come up with some kind of, you've seen some of the presentations we've done lately, T-Mobile, others, do a similar professional presentation and go to some corporations to see if we could not get sponsorship for those 3 fields. I just randomly picked names out of the hat on who we would go to first. So those are hypothetical. We have had some conversations, but that's what I think is one option we might have to address our 3 existing softball fields. Chris is going to take charge on that.
DNS. All right, I'll talk to you.
On relocation of the Little League complex out of Cottonwood Flats, back in 2020, as a result of the flood we had in 2019, Department of Commerce received $36 million to address damage that occurred as a result of that federal disaster. The lion's share of it will be going to other counties, but there's $7 million that we would be eligible for. We're still waiting, even though they got the money in 2020, for them to come up with the program guidelines and how we can apply for that money. We call them about every 3 months to ask them if they got the program set up so we can apply. The other, of course, is community project earmarking that we asked for, one of the 5 projects for earmarking. When the Public Works bill goes through Congress, there may be some other funding that we could look at. One of the things that we didn't talk about it last year because of COVID, but we thought it would be appropriate now to at least throw this out in the mix of discussion of our hotel occupancy tax. Of course, hotel occupancy taxes are extremely common. They're an attractive source of revenue to local governments because the perception is it's paid by outside area paid tax, not local residents. It's politically easy because voters don't pay the tax typically. Hotel and travel industry generally oppose hotel occupancy tax and increases. It appears that that's placated to some degree if that money's being used for things that promote heads and beds, people being in motels. Of course, the impact of hotel occupancy taxes on hotel demand can be debated for several meetings probably. But if the demand is inelastic, meaning if tax goes up, it has the number of rooms occupied don't go down. Again, it's a debatable topic, but there's numerous studies showing that the demand is indeed price inelastic, that this rate has little impact on the occupancy in motels. I would point out though that that's talking in generalities. There are a wide array of factors that can influence that impact on specific motels. Like small motels might be more impacted than large hotels. One geographic area may be more impacted by a motel tax rate increase than others. So there are some variables, even though generally it's thought that it has very little impact. These are comparable hotel rates by tax rate by community. Eufaula is the highest at 9%. You can see there's a group at 8%. Ardmore, Lawton, Sand Springs at 7%. We're at 4% now. Edmond and Stillwater's at 4%, but it's our understanding Edmond and Stillwater are at least looking at going to 5% currently. So there may be some movement with some of the communities that's in our bracket at 4%. Would point out from sports fields, travel is an integral part of youth sports. Families and friends are willing to make the trip to see young competitors. I always have a fancy term for everything, tournications. Tournament vacations are a trend. It's just like we see at Lazy E with some of their events. Mom and dad and grandparents all, that's their vacation for the year, is to come to those kids' events. Same way with baseball and softball. Some of them, that's their vacation. Tournaments typically require overnight stay for participants. If you talk to city staff and others that have kids in softball and baseball competitions, and some of them play in adult leagues, they can give you details about how much they spend for motels and groceries and restaurants. I just picked one example that I looked online, and I just grabbed the first one in 2008 in Hays, Kansas, and we can do an updated one. But at that time, they were building 8 baseball, softball fields, 4 football fields, and 4 soccer fields. An $8 billion investment back at that time. They were projected they would host 38 tournaments a year, 7 for youth softball, 16 for adult softball, 12 for youth baseball, 2 for soccer, and 1 football. They projected over 25,000 visitors for those tournaments, with an average of $92.81 per visitor. Of course, you know, you're gonna have mom and dad in the same hotel and stuff. But if you average it out per visitor for motels, restaurants, shopping, and other activities, that annual impact was about $2.3 million. The tournaments they projected to bring in the most revenue was soccer, youth softball, and youth baseball. And when they did a survey, 81% of the survey respondents said a nice new facility would increase their likelihood of attending a scheduled tournament. Everybody likes to go to the nice new shiny places. We all know that. If you look at our motel tax collection history, in 2017 for budget year, our motel tax generated $202,000 if you round it up. In 18 it was $236,000. In 19 it went back down to $209,000. The impact of the pandemic in FY20, our revenue was $171,000, about $18,000 less than 2019. Would point out that the pandemic recovery is temporary in nature. It will happen. We will recover. And if you look for the first 9 months of 2021, is 133 compared to the first 9 months of 2020. So it's up 11,000 or 9%. So it does show that it looks like we're making a recovery. And if you compare March, April, and May of 20 versus 21 budget, you can see those 3 months are significantly up. But I looked at the 3-year average and didn't take 2020. I took 17, 18, and 19. About 215,000 was the 3-year average. So if you look at that, we're currently at 4%. 66% goes to tourism promotion, 33% goes to parks, 5% to admin. Currently, none of that 4% goes to sports fields. If you earmarked any increase to sports fields improvements and major maintenance, if you did 5%, the increase less the 5% admin fee would generate $51,000 a year to go to the sports field. And you can see if you did 6, 7, 8, staff's not proposing any particular rate increase. We're just bringing the information to you to give you the information. But if you did an 8%, which is the max, it would generate $200,000 a year for sports field. And over a 10-year period, at 5%, it would be $500,000. At 8%, it would be $2 million. And over 15 years, $3 million at 8%. So there'll be a lot of discussion, I'm sure. But this could be another thing that goes to the fee and rate committee to look at and come back with a recommendation. It could go to the finance committee. I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion before decisions made. Another item that would point out that we might want to consider, Guthrie only collects motel tax from hotels and participating bed and breakfast, but not from Airbnbs. Airbnb corporate will not enter into agreements with small municipalities. They only deal with the Oklahoma Tax Commission. We can restructure where we have Oklahoma Tax Commission collect for us, and they do all hotels, B&Bs, Airbnbs within the city limits. It's not an either or. You either do them all through Oklahoma Tax Commission or you don't. The Oklahoma Tax Commission has an agreement with Airbnb to collect lodging tax for host. We would need to modify our ordinance to do that. There would be a 0.5% fee from the tax commission, and we could adjust our 5% administrative fee accordingly to account for that 0.5% fee they charge.
Why would we have, I'm sorry, why would we even continue with an administrative fee at that point?
We would still have to do some paperwork, but
Yeah.
I mean, we could
Adjust
reassign
it,
the fee.
yeah.
That could be up for discussion. This is just on the timing of when, if you decide to do this. Currently, these are the city-county lodging tax that's being collected by OTC. With that, I'd be glad to answer questions from the city council.
So currently, we don't, the Oklahoma Tax Commission doesn't collect any hotel motel tax?
Correct.
Hotels, motel, no.
Correct.
For us?
Correct.
Yes. I'm sorry. For us.
Yeah.
Questions, by any questions, council? Okay.
Thank you all.
I think there were a couple individuals in the audience that might want to make a couple of comments on this. Is that true? Gary? You want to start? You've got 5 minutes. Identify yourself, address.
My name's Gary Good, 323 West Cleveland Avenue here in Guthrie. Hotel motel tax, for me, I'm looking at who's the competitors in the area. And our competitors are Edmond and Stillwater. That's our major two competitors. Taking consideration our sales tax differences, Stillwater charges 12.813 tax for a hotel room total. Edmond 12.25% total tax for a hotel room. Guthrie 13%. So we're above both of our competitors right now. Even if we go up 1%, we're standing alone. The Lazy E has on their website, we're on there, I represent Guthrie Bed and Breakfast Association. And we are listed, if you go to lazyE.com and go on Plan Your Stay, look at the hotel rooms listed. You'll see the hotels that are listed in Guthrie, Bed and Breakfast Association, and then you'll see Edmond. I had 2 bookings from Lazy E this last year, period. And from what I'm hearing, Edmond is getting those rooms. I think HC will bring up something along that line with events that have been lost to Edmond. So my concern is, I mean, I love baseball. I think more baseball, less trouble. More kids playing baseball, the better. So I'm all for more fields. I'm all for sports as much as possible. I just would hope that when you're discussing this and looking at budgets, that you consider there's 6 bed and breakfasts in Guthrie right now. We are called Guthrie is called the Oklahoma Bed and Breakfast Capital right now because we claim that. And that's what we have on our website, and that's what we say. One of the bed and breakfasts is for sale right now. We're hoping that who buys it will join our association. That's not guaranteed. But if we bump our hotel motel tax up, I think that we will diminish and more the bed and breakfast will just become apartments, and you get 0 taxes on apartment rentals. So I just think I would really ask that you, while you're meeting or whatever committees, that you consider that if we rise above our competitors, then we're really at a disadvantage here in Guthrie with our hospitality, especially with our Airbnbs and bed and breakfast. And I will point out that I do pay the hotel tax for Airbnb bookings, and I do that through CAM every year. And I would hope that all the rest of the association members do that as well. Thank you.
That was my question.
Yes.
How many of those do we have here? Do we know?
That's a good question.
The Airbnb?
We don't have anything to do with that, our association.
I'm just curious, because we're not collecting that. Is it significant?
We don't have a good count.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I have some that I have listed because I always try to help people find rooms, like, you know, when we don't have rooms and our other association members don't have rooms. I have a few of them that I have phone numbers for, but I don't know all of them.
Now, let me ask another thing. On the 2 rooms that were booked during last year's Lazy E deal, couldn't that be because of COVID? They were restricted to stay on site pretty much, weren't they?
Well, that particular event, yes, but they've had a lot of events since then. There was one that we had 2 rooms booked. We should have had all of our rooms booked because it was a big event, and we got 2 bookings out of that. I don't know if any of the other B&Bs had bookings, you know, so I think we're losing bookings to Edmond for Lazy E events, and that's a real problem for us.
Do you think those people looked at, you know, I'm just pulling numbers here, say it's $100 stay in your room for the night, you think those people looked at it and went, oh, Guthrie's $1 higher than Edmond is, let's go to Edmond?
I don't know the answer to that. All I know is, as a businessman, it doesn't seem like a wise move to raise our rates above our surrounding cities. That's the main thing. I don't know the answer to that, though.
Yeah, I could see it, you know, a big percentage or something, but
Well,
I just wonder if it really had, you know, the 1/4% or whatever, if that has
I think-
that big of a bearing on it or not.
I think a lot might be the new hotels coming up on Covell and maybe even our
Well,
hotels.
and if you
taking
look
from
at it
that.
this way, as things move north from Edmond, if we raise our percent to whatever, and Edmond is below us still, total room cost, because our sales tax is a little higher, then what happens when these other hotels move closer to Guthrie and right on the edge, whether it's Waterloo or whatever, right up to the edge of Logan County, and they take even more of our business. I mean, people that plan trips, and a lot of them are planned by people who book, and they check on these things. They
Maybe
call-
I'm the exception, but when
Well, I
I'm
think
booking a
we're
room.
losing a lot to I don't stay in a hotel anymore. I stay at Airbnb.
Well, that's what I'm curious, if we looked at that, how much revenue could be gained on
I believe that
using the
if,
OTC to
if,
collect.
I don't like them.
I believe that if the city would really look at getting a handle on all the Airbnbs that are listed, and it's pretty easy to find, you just have to take the time to do it, and require them to pay hotel
I
motel
think our
tax.
best thing is to take all of it to the Oklahoma Tax Commission.
Because they've got to deal with Airbnb, and
They
they're
do.
automatically gonna collect the
And the
tax on the
hotels
front
as
end.
They
well.
withhold, they
They should be
withhold
collecting
sales
it.
tax. I don't have to do that with Airbnb. But then at the end of the quarter or whatever, I get with Kim and I go through my list, which ones of those were Airbnbs, and I've got them all marked. Then I pay taxes on those, because they don't withhold that. So,
And we appreciate that.
yes, I do. So any other questions for me?
Appreciate you.
Okay,
Thank you.
AC?
My name is H.C. Patel. I manage a Sleep Inn here in town, which is 414 Heather Road. I'm all in favor with the sports complex. We do need other revenue streams coming into Guthrie. That's the bottom line. Lazy E is dried up pretty fast for us. And like I think someone mentioned that the new things are nice and bright and shiny. I'm one of those which is not new and it's not bright and shiny anymore. So basically, we do need something like this, and I'm all in favor. But we got a long way to go of what that lodging tax is going to be used for the sports complex. And is it going to be grandfathered out, or is it just going to stay forever? Where do we cap it out? Is it 1%, 4%, 3%? How do we utilize that money? I hear we got all these grants and the stimulus packets or coming through the government right now. How do we utilize that money to take care of the sports complex we're looking at right now? Can we get more money
And I
to
think
get the
that's one-
economy going?
That's
you
one of
know.
the things that's in the discussion.
Yeah.
I think what was listed
Yeah.
there was potential
Yeah.
operating costs
Cost, yeah.
that would go to cover that, which aren't going to be recurring, obviously. But there could be a multitude of things. Do you see that that there would be revenue generated by?
Oh, definitely,
there being
yeah.
more people coming and staying at your place or?
I hope so.
B&Bs or, yeah.
I hope so. You know, I'm looking forward to having something like that, people coming in, families coming in. And I know for a fact they do travel a lot. I know a lot of families here in Guthrie, they go for sports events, baseball or softball with their kids, going out of town. And I know I helped someone out a couple of weeks ago because they went to Dallas-Fort Worth for their child.
Are you noticing an uptick in rooms this
No.
year so far, no?
I
mean,
would
from
say
last year?
March and April was very good,
That's good.
but May was flat, completely flat.
Wonder why.
We did, you know, like even for graduation, we were up a little bit, but, you know, a concept which I hear from people around Guthrie is, oh, you gotta be 100%, there's an event going on in Lazy E. You know, it doesn't work that way. You know, like, there's an event going on this week at Lazy E, barrel racing. I think I got 3 rooms.
I guess my question is, what's the responsibility of the hotels and motels to go out and market to get that business? What are those Edmond hotels doing to market themselves to get that business? Because just being on the Lazy's website, that's not marketing.
Oh, I know, it's not marketing. Yeah. Beats me what they're doing, you know, and a lot of it does. And Lazy E is very proactive in how much money you give them to start off with, how they want to, you know, in their.
Well, if
And-
Lazy
and-
E
and
is,
I gotta
mean,
say
they're
one
obviously
thing.
getting some.
They're getting something.
Well,
Kickback.
it's not that how they're marketing the whole city. I do gotta say, you know, when we get these events coming in, they want a restaurant to go to eat. They want variety. They want a place at night which is gonna stay open where they can have a drink. when they finish with their event.
So where is that? Right at Covell and Edmond, it's not, there's nothing really there. There's a hotel there, Shiny New, there's a
But how far
Starbucks.
is it? It's
Huh?
a 5-minute drive to Second Street.
Yeah.
You got Suna, which is
Yeah.
completely open. You don't even have to get on the interstate anymore.
Okay.
About 5 minutes over.
Appreciate your.
Thank you.
AC.
So we need to open a bar.
We have one more. Chris, you've got, I'll be quicker than you need, 4 minutes.
I'll keep you on schedule, I promise. Chris Evans, 2016 Gloria Place. Like Larry Rory showed you on the Fort Hays, Kansas deal, I'll show you my latest deal. We went to Elk City this weekend for a baseball tournament. Our coach said, hey, we got these rooms. Well, we went to Elk City, we couldn't get a room in Elk City because all the rooms were booked up, so we had to stay in Clinton. And our baseball coach said, hey, we have 10 rooms, better call and get booked up right now. And so we did that. The sales tax in Clinton was 5%. They have a city sales tax of 9.5%. We spent 14.5%. My family spent $400 this weekend in between Elk City and Clinton. That counts 3 trips to Sonic. So that was $400. We have 12 kids on the team. And they all obviously stayed night as well. So there's some. Elk City has outstanding fields. They're 2 hours away, so they have to do something. But they're all in on their complex. So that's just an example. I'm not saying we have to be Elk City. If we're half of that, I'd be happy with that. But we didn't look at the hotel rate before we said, the coach said, we got hotel rooms at this one, call now, get them booked. It turned out to be 5%.
That's what I was wondering. Did you know what that tax rate was?
I knew to get my bill, itemized bill, to look at that, to know that.
Well, that's what I started to say earlier. Normally, when I book one, if I'm using an app or something, you book the room, and it, does what it does, and it was a $100 room, and then your total's $114 or whatever. You go, oh yeah, there was some tax on it. To me, I never see it or care or think about what it is, and I'm not saying let's just make it as high as it could be either, but I think that's the way a lot of people do it. They book the room and just figure that there's tax involved in the thing.
Our hotel room was $96, 9.5% city sales tax, 5% lodging tax.
So, but your spend was about 4 times what Leroy's projection was on the Kansas deal.
This weekend was $400. This coming week, we're going to Perry, so we're not going to stay the night. So but we're still going to eat because the tournament directors know to put 2 hours in between our ball games, and we'll go eat and go get a Sonic drink.
But I think what these guys are talking about, when we look at, like when I travel to Austin or Dallas or something, you don't even think about it. You just get your hotel and go.
Correct.
And then taxes through the ceiling in Austin. It's through the roof.
I think that's the majority of people, and that's not everybody, but that's the majority,
But
super majority.
This is small town here, so these rooms, when you got 9 or 10 rooms, that's a big effect on your, on revenue. And so I think that if we just went and, without beating a dead horse, go look at all these Airbnbs through the OTC, that may make up the difference, and this conversation might not even be taking place.
Or it doesn't have to be either or.
It doesn't have to be either or, it could be both.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Does
Any other
Sam pay for all
questions?
that?
Absolutely.
Any other questions on the council?
Not scholarship.
HC?
I'm not more looking at what the lodging tax was.
No, but you had.
Quick, you got 1 minute.
My concern is not increasing the lodging. I have no problem if it, I have a problem 4%, but like 1 or 2%, no problem. It's how it's going to be utilized, how it's going to be used. That's mine.
Here we go.
That's my concern. If we want to grandfather in for 100 years, I don't think that cuts it. If it's a specific item which is going to benefit the sports complex, plus the city and the hotels.
You just want it to go towards what it's going for,
Going
not
for.
just be thrown.
Yeah,
in.
not just thrown in the kitty as a general fund. And
Right.
you know what, and like Chris just said, he spent that kind of money, but how much was spent on restaurants or, gas? Is it worth putting 0.25% on our regular sales tax? We'll make a lot more money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned. And
They're starting a new meeting.
ready to start. Get your stuff together. For those of you in the audience, we start our city council, actually Public Works Authority meeting with everybody standing. We do our pledge, remain standing for the prayer. And then we will move into officially opening up our Public Works Authority. Would you please stand and join with me in our pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor?
You bow with me and pray. Dear wise and loving God, I say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for our many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the health we need to fulfill our callings, and for sustaining us daily. Thank you that we can be involved in this useful work and for the honor of bearing the responsibilities entrusted to us. Thank you for the freedom to worship you, and thank you for loving us from your boundless and gracious nature. I pray for our mayor and city officials in particular, for this assembled council, and I am asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, and the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Give them assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Guthrie, Oklahoma. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you for that prayer. Call to order our Guthrie Public Works Authority meeting of June 1st. Second item on the agenda is public comments, announcements, recognitions. Kim, did we have any? No. Third item on the agenda is our consent agenda. One item A is the approval of the minutes of the Public Works Authority meeting held of May 18th. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. We have a motion and a second. Is there a second? Did I miss the second? We have a motion.
Second.
Looking for a second. Have a motion and a second. And oh, by the way, we have now gone back to the new normal, which is we now have buttons to push.
I was going to raise my hand.
No, too bad. So, would you please submit your votes?
And they don't work.
Well, I'm going to say all votes are in.
No?
Malfunction.
All right.
Okay, let's try it again.
Okay, submit your votes.
Yours is not working. Okay.
Unanimous
You got it.
approval of the consent agenda from all those present. Thank you. With that, Public Works Authority is adjourned, and I call to order our City Council meeting of June 1st. The second item on the agenda is consent agenda items A and B. A is the approval of the minutes of the special City Council meeting and workshop of May 18th, and B is the approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting of May 18th. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please submit your votes.
All votes are in.
Let's see the votes. Again, unanimous approval of the consent agenda from all those present. Item number 3, discussion and possible action to confirm the mayor's nomination to reappoint Jeffrey Jordan to the Guthrie Public Works Board for a new 2-year term through June of 2023. You have seen his application. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second? Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
Let's see the votes. Unanimous approval of reappointing Mr. Jeffrey Jordan to the Guthrie Parks Board for a term through 2023. Item number 4, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance number 3351 to rezone a property located at 821 South Division.
Thank you,
Dan?
Mr. Mayor.
City Council. As you indicated, this is a rezone. It's right down the street at 821 South Division. The council may remember not too long ago there was a rezone for the property around it. This is a little 8,475 square foot parcel. It's where the little green building exists. At the time, the current owner did not have ownership of that. They've since have a new owner, and so they're looking to rezone it from A1 to C2, which would be fitting with all the other properties in the area. And the Planning Commission had recommended 5-0 approval.
I'm gonna move to approve.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes, folks.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from those councilmen present to approve that ordinance 3351 and that rezoning request. Item number 5, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance number 3352 to request a rezoning of property on East Springer. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council again. This is a rezone from R1 to R2. It is on East Springer. It's a 12,600 square foot lot. The comprehensive plan designates this area medium-density residential. The applicant's looking to rezone because they're going to make it a multifamily property, but regardless of or I should say with the zoning, it would only allow up to 4 units. So they're looking for roughly 4 units. It could be less once we get lot coverage with that. But having said that, the Planning Commission recommended 5-0 of that rezone from R1 to R2.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from all those present to approve ordinance number 3352, that rezoning request. Item number 6, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance number 3353, another rezoning on Hillcrest and Pine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things is with all these rezones, you can tell we got a lot of stuff coming down the road, which
That's
I think
the
is
good
good.
news.
Yeah. This is located at the corner of Hillcrest and Pine, the northwest corner. It's right across from, gosh, now I forgot the subdivision there that the Powell subdivision has. It's currently A1. They're looking to rezone, or A2. It's a 13.73 acre parcel, and they're looking to rezone it to R1. Their intent is to come at a later date with a subdivision plat to subdivide it into single-family homes. It's consistent with the general plan, and the Planning Commission recommended 5-0 of the rezone.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from all those present to approve ordinance number 3353, that rezoning at Hillcrest and Pine. Item number 7, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance number 3354 for a PUD development.
Yes, it's an amendment to our code. It's not a rezone. But if the council may remember, in September of 2020, you adopted a new planned unit development regulations for the city. One of the things that came up was in section 11.5, which is under the procedures and review of a PUD, on what the council could do. Unfortunately, the way it was worded, it limited the council. It essentially worded it in a way that you could only approve or send it back to the Planning Commission. The intent was to have the council to be able to approve it in its form, approve Planning Commission recommendations, or make modifications as you see fit or necessary, given public input, et cetera, in that. And so what this is doing is changing the language to where that's clear, that now you have those options. So it's only amending section 11.5 of that to, again, allow where it will say now that the city council can make modifications. So it just clears up some potential issues down the road when we have a PUD.
Okay. Any questions of Dan? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
A motion and a second. And a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to adopt that ordinance, that amendment, ordinance 3354. Item number 8, discussion and possible action on the request for a special use permit to allow Church on the Hill temporary period use of a facility in the central business district. Dan?
Thank you. And again, the council may remember, this issue came up on a different location, but it was a church in the central business district. It was over off of Harrison. This is, again, a request. The only difference this time is the applicant had indicated they were looking for a temporary time frame. This is over at the American Legion Building at 123 North First Street. And it is a request for a special use permit to have a church and religious activities, but again, to want it for a temporary period to end 30 September. The Planning Commission did recommend approval 4-1, that with the condition that the permit expire on 30 September of 2021. I believe the city manager has some comments in that, so I'll let him speak because they're similar to mine, but no use in both of us saying the same thing.
All right, Leroy?
Staff is concerned about setting a precedent, and we think we have a recommendation that may work for both parties. We recommend to deny the Church on the Hill's request for a special use permit to allow for church and other religious activities for a temporary period through September 30, 2021 for property located within the Central Business District at 123 North First Street, provided the applicant is ordered to cease and desist all church and religious activities at 123 North First Street by October 1, 2021. So you would deny their request for a temporary permit, but you would give them till October 1 to move out.
So in essence,
Both parties get what they want.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
So they can still hold their services through the end of September, which is
Correct,
what their
correct.
special
We're
use
not
request
granting the
was.
permit, but we're giving them to October 1 to cease and desist.
Okay.
And I just wanted to add that the applicant couldn't be here tonight because he had a doctor's appointment, but he was in my office this afternoon, and I explained to him that scenario or that recommendation, and he didn't have an issue with it.
Okay. Are there any concerns with the Able Commission aspect of this?
No, because it's temporary, yeah, because it's going to be temporary, and what's there is already going to be basically grandfathered in. So if the existing ones, there's no issue. And I don't know if we would have a use that would come in the next, 90 days or so to cause any issue.
so if I were to say I deny the request for the special use permit, but allow them to, to cease and desist by October 1, that's the motion,
Yes.
That's correct.
then that's what I just made.
So I second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your vote. See vote. Unanimous disapproval of the request for special use with the proviso that the occupant of the building cease and desist of church activities October 1. All right. Item number 9 is discussion and possible action to request special use permit for a home-based pet grooming service. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as you indicated, this is a special use permit for doing home-based pet grooming. In our code, it doesn't say pet grooming, but it does allow barber shops or beauty shops, and so I made the determination that this was a similar type use, and thus it could be approved through the special use permit. The special use permit did go to the Planning Commission, and they had recommended approval of the special use permit 5-0 with the following conditions. That the pet grooming service be conducted solely by the resident occupants of the home and no other employees shall be permitted. No more than one appointment per hour, and appointment be limited to between 8 and 5 p.m. No boarding or short-term stay of animals is allowed, and then only one sign may be allowed in that. So if you do want to take the Planning Commission recommendations, please make sure you also specify with their conditions.
Okay, questions of Dan?
Yeah, what's the issue with an additional employee on the deal?
Well-
Parking in the street, or what?
No, yeah, a lot of it is more or less the use overall, to not get to a point where it becomes more of a business. So, you know, if you have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 employees, you know, type of thing, it's to keep the character of the neighborhood kind of intact. So the applicant is going to be at this point the only one. It just helps to make sure it doesn't become an expanse of the business and cause issue with the neighborhood.
Would they be equipped to give staff a trim when they get?
Didn't you notice I got one? Yeah.
Just curiosity.
Any other questions of Dan? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
And we're approving with the
With the
caveat.
stipulations, we're approving it
Yeah,
with the
with planning
stipulations
commission,
as
right, yeah.
identified by the planning and
Yeah.
that Dan just verbalized to us. Submit your votes.
All votes, right?
See the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to approve that special use permit. Item number 10, discussion and possible action on resolution 2021-17, continuing support for the expansion of Amtrak passenger rail service. Leroy, are you covering?
I will cover this. We have adopted probably multiple times over the last decade resolutions in support of Amtrak and the extension of the service from Oklahoma City to Kansas. There is a new task force, and as we've seen by the president's plan for infrastructure improvements, substantial dollars earmarked towards Amtrak, and this would be similar to prior resolutions endorsing that with a stop in Guthrie.
Yeah.
I think that if it's ever going to happen, the window of opportunity is here with the present administration, apparently.
Do we get to go on another train ride?
We'll take you on one.
Could be.
They have a little
Anybody
kiddie
any
train in
questions on the
Independence.
council of Leroy? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second?
And I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes, right?
See the votes. Unanimous approval from those present to approve Resolution 2021-17, continuing support for the Amtrak passenger rail. Item number 11, City Manager Report.
I have no additional items.
Item number 12, comments from City Council. Councilman Long.
Just glad to see we're through with the charades.
Councilman Taylor.
Tenny, thanks. I appreciate the guys coming out and getting the trees out of our addition. Thank you very much on that. And I see they've been working real hard, so are you about done with all that now?
Trees are done, first
Okay.
round and second round.
Okay, well, it looked great. I really appreciate that.
Finalize everything by the 21st of June with FEMA.
Do you know how many tons you ended up with?
No, we can do over the board.
I'm just kind of curious. Otherwise, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's it, Mayor.
Councilman Williams.
No comment.
Okay. Councilman Channel.
Sure, I'm gonna gripe.
What?
About what? The ATV permits. We voted that the people could buy the ATV permits, drive them on the street, get a permit. It's a quality of life thing, but I myself, I've noticed several running around that haven't bought the permits. So I don't know if it's because, you know, somebody said, well, yeah, they legalized them, we can go drive them now. If it's lack of information or what it is, but you have to be permitted and inspected to drive those around town. So if you're one of them that's been doing it, go down to the police department and get it inspected, because if we just keep letting anybody and everybody, eventually it'll get out of control and it'll get ruined for everybody. So I've seen, there's a pack of 3 of them that rides around that I've seen quite a bit and I don't know if they're being defiant towards buying a permit or if it's just lack of information. But here's your information, you need to get a permit. And I've seen people make the comment too about, well, I guess they're legal now, they can speed down College or they can speed down this or that. No, they have to abide by the same laws as the cars do. So they're gonna have the same problem if the cop catches them. You know, if they're doing 50 down College, they're gonna have the same problem that I would have if I was driving my car down College at 50. So you have to abide by the traffic rules. It's not a free-for-all. And for the rest of you, the tree limb service pickup deal is over. Some of these people think they have tree limb pickup for life. It's over, it's done. So don't put it out there, we're not coming. It's done. And Tenny's over there amening me, so. Other than that, I'm done griping.
Councilman Guthrie.
I ditto everybody with Tenny, did a great job. You know, my neighbors are thrilled, their stuff's gone. And then Leroy on the planning of, the proper planning on this, I think is class act.
Thank you.
So that's it for me.
Yeah, very good. And just a couple of different comments. One, not only on the removal of the pickup and the removal of the limbs and all that debris and stuff, but now we're into the spring session and lots of growing grass, and we have wonderful parks here. And one of the reasons that we got wonderful parks is because of the crew that we have in the city that takes care of them. Just with Memorial Day and the activities that were out at the cemetery, just kind of highlighted that. But when you look at any of our parks, they are in magnificent condition right now and are generally through the whole year. And it's a lot of effort by a lot of staff. So congratulations to the staff that are involved with that, with all of our parks and trails, directly and indirectly.
What about that one goose that chases you around Highland? Did you notice that?
I'm gonna quit feeding that goose.
Can't even walk by that thing when he just starts chasing after you.
That's all I have, folks, and city council meeting is adjourned. We're not through yet. Okay, I'm gonna call to order our special Guthrie Economic Development Authority meeting. Item number 2 is the consent agenda, which is the approval of the special Guthrie Economic Development meeting of April 6th. I'll entertain a motion to approve that consent agenda.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Submit your vote. See the votes.
Oh, hit them both by accident.
We have one that's uncertain. I'll tell you that we have a unanimous approval of the consent agenda, item A as identified. Item number 3, consider approval to convene into executive session pursuant to discussion on a number of issues concerning the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Submit your votes. See the votes. Unanimous approval to move into executive session to discuss the airport.
Record time just for Chris.
All that for no action, real good. We should have made this a little bit.
We're gonna stay down here,
I tried to.
Yeah, no, not yet.
One of these times we're gonna have to just do a motion on that executive session, see what happens.
We lose somebody here?
Billy?
No,
Yeah, well,
you're up.
he chose to sit in the
He's-
audience.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to come out of executive session and resume.
Second.
Motion, submit your vote.
Oh, that's all right.
See the votes. Unanimous of those present to come out of executive session. Item number 5, consider action regarding the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport. No action taken at this time. That being the last item on our agenda, we're adjourned. Thank you.
That was an aggressive.
In a land of wonder and awe, you won't believe you see what you saw. Where there's something to do for young and for old, where stories are written and then they're retold. Visit Travelok.com today. Come see for yourself and come out to play.